Thank you, Ray, for making time on this Saturday morning. Tell me a little bit first about what you do.
I'm the sheriff of Buchanan County. Been sheriff for 8 years. This be running for my third term, and that's what I was doing this morning, getting ready to go out, campaign, knock on a few doors, and decided to stop by and have a chat with you.
Thank you. Appreciate
You're very
that.
welcome.
Appreciate that. Now, when you hear the word diabetes, what comes to your mind?
Well, it's an illness or disease, I think, that hits a lot of people. Hits a very lot of people. And of course, when you hear diabetes, first thing you think of is, oh Lord, I can't eat sugar. You know? That's a sweetener, but that don't happen like that. I found that out.
So what's been your experience with diabetes?
Well, I've had diabetes now for probably around 12 years, and when I first got it and stuff, or first found it, I was in, matter of fact, this hospital here, and I ended up, nurse come in and asked me, she said, "Have you had your insulin today?" I said, "No ma'am, don't take insulin." And it was 775, I think is what my rating was when they found it, and she said she left and she come back, give me a shot, and she said, "Guess what? You're on insulin now." You know, but that started her. She said, "You're a diabetic now," and like I said, that's when I started getting treatments and stuff like that. Ended up coming and seeing Pam because I couldn't get it under control. I wasn't doing the right thing, and for people that don't know about diabetes and things, seem like they do try the wrong things. So it's just, unless you get trained with it, diabetes is very, very hard to understand.
And then, so what happened when you went home?
Well, I was blind. I was, when I left the hospital, when my sugar had been up that high, I couldn't even read the road signs and along the roads. And I thought, well, I'm in trouble, because I thought, well, my eyesight was going. But eventually, when my sugar got back to where it's a little more under control, my eyesight got back. But of course, you can see I started wearing glasses and had to continue wearing glasses. And of course, my eyesight changes now. I'm down to where maybe once every 2 years I have to change glasses or something because my eyesight varies and stuff. But now, when I went home, I started trying to have a good diet. I was on, my wife was trying to make me do the best diet. And what was very aggravating to me at home, and just one day it just so happens to come to me, but my sugar was 500 and something, and I'd starved myself or tried to not eat. And of course, everybody has Sunday dinners and things, and I didn't get to eat my Sunday dinner, and I'd check my sugar. I'd go out and walk. I'd do this stuff. It would be 400 and something, and I thought, my God, well, something's got to be done. And like I said, I heard about Pam Hinkle here. I heard about her doing this, telling you about diabetes, being about diabetes and stuff, and how to control it, what to do and things. And so I come and sat in, and me and her talked, and a lot of this. And like I said, I've been to doctors, but none of them really sat down and explained the way she did. None of them had sat down and told me what I needed to know. And lo and behold, I was doing exactly what I shouldn't do. I was out there with my diabetes up into the 480s, almost up to 500 and stuff like that. And I was out there trying to do exercise to bring it down, walking. And then when I'd check it, it'd be up 600. You know, it's going backwards. And me and Pam, and I told her, well, she told me, you know, hey, when it's above 300, you don't do exercise. because that just does it. And like I said, I was doing exactly the opposite of what I needed to do. And the program that she had and stuff to teach us about diabetes and what to do with it and how to deal with it, she really, really helped me get it under control. And when I'm talking about mine being under control, mine's high a lot now anyway. Of course, I'm under a lot of stress and stuff like that. But mine usually runs into the 200s right now. When I'm saying under control, I'm talking about anywhere from 125 to 210 or something. That's if I can keep mine under 200, I'm saying I've got it under control.
I hear you.
But it's like I said, that really opened my eyes. And me and Pam, like I said, when I sat down with her, and I just flat told her at one of her meetings, I just told her, I said, Pam, I can't live like this. I mean, my sugar was 500 and stuff. And I told her, I said, and really you can't.
No.
You just can't live like that with your sugar running in there. And now, like I said, I take shots, still take a pill, a couple of shots a day. But eventually, I think I'll either get on the pump or something. I've got it, like I said, I'm doing a whole lot better. Yeah. And it's really, really thankful to Pam and her class. And of course, I try to watch a little better of what I eat. But like I said, I found out it ain't sugar. Because I never was a real big sugar eater. Mine was more the fried food, the cornbread, and fried taters. Now that, and people may not realize that the starches and stuff like that's what shoots your sugar up instead of just being a candy bar or a piece of cake. Or, like I said, I never was a real big sweet eater, but I ended up with diabetes. And my grandmother had diabetes.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you have family members?
Yes, my grandmother did, but she's the only one that I know of that's close to me, or that was close in our generation here that had diabetes. And she was, I think, about 84, 85 year old, and when she passed away. But she'd had it probably in her 60s, but I mean, nobody even, well, of course, back then, a lot of people didn't know about diabetes.
We didn't know as much then as we do now.
Didn't know as much as what we do now.
So we're lucky in that respect. We didn't know a whole lot more about how to control it.
Well, like I said, if it hadn't been for the classes and stuff that Pam had, like I said, I'd have been in trouble. Because I just absolutely couldn't understand why. Because, I mean, you hear people, when they were talking about, oh, I got diabetes, I checked my sugar and it was 280 or 300 and something, and, I go walk and it'll come down, or I'll eat this meal, and then when I get up from the table, I'll go walk, and it'll bring the sugar down. Well, I was just like them, I thought, well, the more I walk and the more exercise I do, my sugar's up there in 400 and 500, then the more I need to walk 2 or 3 miles to get it down. But like I said, I found out that ain't so. Because the more I'd walk and the more and that's what I was telling you, just like on Sunday, my mother-in-law and my wife and us, we go down to my mother-in-law's, and she'd always had fried chicken or mashed potatoes, have a good Sunday dinner. And I'd check my sugar, and it'd be up there 2-something, or like I said, over 300. And I'd say, well, I ain't going to eat it. Well, here I'd go hungry and everything else. Well, when I'd go back to the house, instead of it being 360, I'd check it, and it'd be 420 or something. And I'd say, dang on it, here I am. Didn't have this good meal with my family, wasn't getting along with my family. I wasn't enjoying nothing with them, but yet my sugar was going up instead of down, and I could not figure out. I'd get so frustrated and mad at myself. I guess that would make my sugar go up, and I was just sitting there. Well, I was fighting a losing battle. I mean, I was losing before the battle ever started because I did not know how to help myself, and that really That really frustrated me. That really made me mad. Like I said, my wife kept saying, well, this woman, Pam Hinkle's got a diabetes class up at Buchanan. Won't you get in that and see, won't you call her and see if you can set up something and let her explain. I don't need explaining, I know what I'm doing. Other people do this. I can do this, But no, it didn't.
What about, you mentioned, like where you have a high-stress job.
Uh-huh.
So, a lot of
Well,
times,
being sure, trust me, it's high stress.
but people sometimes don't think about the way stress affects your disease.
Oh, yes, very much. Way mine is, I can be, take my insulin and stuff, and my sugar may be down some. The way I work, I may not get to eat that meal when I need to, because diabetics need, 5-6 meals, small portions, but they need 5 or 6 times to eat a day and stuff. Well, like I said, sometimes I'm lucky to get my 3. Mm-hmm. The stress part, I get a lot of things happen, DOAs that I go to, very hectic days, shootings, car wrecks, stuff like I said, and then my budget, stuff like that, trying to take care of my office and things. It's the time I get home of the evening, sometimes at 6, 7 o'clock, my sugar will be running almost 300 again, and like I said, I've not even eat or nothing. And that just gets so aggravating. And if you don't realize that stress can fluctuate your sugar up and down and make you, and even just what I just said about your sugar fluctuating up and down, that can make your sugar go crazy. Because it makes your body, just like the other day, yesterday, I was out on a manhunt. I'd eat a breakfast, took my insulin, and then I ended up into a manhunt in the woods, doing, running the woods, doing all this. All right, I didn't get back home, and just lucky I stopped back home about 2 o'clock on the way back to the office. And I started feeling a little shaky and sweaty. I checked it, 62. I said, hello. So anyway, I had to eat me a sandwich before I could even go back to the office. Well, by the time I got back up to the office, got into my paperwork, more stuff, people want to know how this fellow was, what we do, all this. And like I said, your paperwork on top of all that. Well, by the time I got home I believe I got home about 5:30, and then I needed to go to some ball games, so I was just going to get to sit down and eat another sandwich instead of a meal. I checked my sugar. It was I believe it was 240 something at that time. And like I said, you pop me with another needle to get my insulin in me, and I eat a sandwich. Well, I went to the ball game and got standing around and all this walking and stuff like that. And then by the time I got back home, checked it, it was 109. So I said, hey, look here, But that's what I said.
Up and down.
That's my typical day, up and down, fluctuating. Well, when your body and your insulin is fluctuating, your sugar's fluctuating like that, it makes stress on you. It puts your body on. Just having diabetes makes stress.
Yeah.
It's.
Have you found a way to deal with the stress?
Not yet. This has been a very rough year. We've had some very, very hard times this year, and then of course it's been an election year. Told me when I ain't working, I'm campaigning. Like I said, that's what I was getting ready to do this morning. But other than just trying to relax, trying to sit down with a good movie, or just get on my four-wheeler with my wife or something other than just try to drive around in the mountains a little bit. just me and her talking stuff out. That's about the best I can do right now. I mean, that's.
How does your wife and family give you support?
They watch over me real well. I mean, they if I'm doing something, and even my daughter, my wife, both, if they see me, you know, they're constantly saying, you know, do you need this? Do you need to stop and eat? Now, my wife's very good with it because we've been married 35 years, and she knows different things about me. She knows when I start getting a little short with her or whatever, my attitude changes, then she'll say, sure, even the men at work and stuff started doing. They'll say if they're asking me something and I get a little short or something, they'll say, have you eaten today? Is your sugar up? You know, they'll do you need your insulin? Because they know that I do. You know, my attitude changes when my chemistry in the body fluctuates like that. My attitude changes, and my wife does that really well.
A lot of people that don't have diabetes don't realize what happens inside people who do have the disease as they're living with it every day.
Well, you just said people that don't have diabetes. I think a lot of people, and I know, sure, as you was just saying, in these times, more people is aware that they have diabetes. And I think they do have it. A lot of people have it. And they're nippy, or they're, like you say, their body chemistry is not doing what it's supposed to. They don't realize what's making them like that. Matter of fact, just last week, me and this fellow was talking about his son, and he was saying there at the school, said his son's really doing some stuff there, and said, you know, and he said he'd get real shaky, and he wanted to know if he's on. I said, have you ever had your son checked for diabetes? He said, no. And I said, well, what you're describing, I said, some of that is the symptoms of somebody with diabetes. You know, they get very irritable, they get shaky, they get down, you know, they're not concentrating and stuff. And I said, that don't mean you're on drugs. I said, you need to have him checked for diabetes. I said, you know, and they look at you like at this young age. Yeah, they, you know, used to, diabetes is about like the heart. Diabetes can hit you any age, small, young. I worked with a boy. He had 2 small children, and both of them was diabetics in school and stuff, and they would have to watch it. And last week too, I had this woman make a report, and I did not like what she had to say about the school, and I don't think she knew what she was talking about, but she was saying there that the school nurse would not let this kid, would not check her good for diabetes, because the kid was doing whatever it was there in school, and she said, well, my daughter is a diabetic, and she should be allowed to eat this in class. And I'm sitting there thinking, look, you don't know what a true diabetic is. You know, you're just using this trying to take up your kid. A true diabetic, you know, your school's going to watch them. They, and a lot of people will come to me with that, prisoners that I've had in jail and stuff, people that I've had handcuffed or locked up, they start that with me, you know, I'm a diabetic, I need this, and I tell them, I say, yeah, I am too, you know, and when I say I'm diabetic, like I said, I'm on shots, I take my insulin and stuff. I'm not just one of them that says I'm a diabetic, you know, and I live with it. No, I'm a diabetic, and I have to do stuff to live. So some of them that try to tell me that they're diabetics, and you know they gotta have this and gotta have that, and I'll say, you know, well, are you sweating? Or are you doing this or that? No, but I'm a diabetic. You may be, but I can tell you what they do.
That's right. That's right. You know. So one of our concerns with this grant that we have, you know, in working in the county, is really to prevent type 2 diabetes. Type 1, we can't. You know, there are some young people particularly that through their families, they're just at risk and they acquire type 1. But type 2 largely comes from being overweight and not being active enough. And by changing lifestyles, we can actually prevent type 2. I just wondered what you see in the community as far as children and adults who are overweight or obese. Do you see that very much?
Yes, and just like I said, a lot of times in these schools, they don't get enough exercise. I'll be right up front and honest with you. I just do not see the curriculum in the schools changing to where it's going to be a helping kids with diabetes. They definitely need it. I mean, I know a lot of times parents, teachers, whatever, when we're talking diabetes, first thing they start with is, like you said, your obesity part. And they say, well, you know, this person's obese, we need to watch what they're eating. Well, I'll grant you, you do. But you also need to get them, as you were saying, active. You need to get them some exercises doing. You need to sports. You need to get them moving. You need to get them arteries flowing, get that blood going. You know, I mean, I've seen diabetes in kids and grown-ups and stuff, and them look like a walking skeleton walking around. And like you say, you know, sometimes you can't prevent it. But I agree with you, where our school systems does need some overhauling done to get our kids into thinking about diabetes. I mean, I go to these schools, I'm constantly talking about smoking, not to smoke, tobacco, alcohol, drugs. I'm doing all these kind of classes and talking. How many diabetes, you know? And I say this with drugs, same way as I say with guns. You know, you don't hide it, you put it out there. The same way with drugs. You know, you've got to be educated. The more you know, the better you can fight. And that's the same way as diabetes. If you push it over in the corner, you put it in a closet, you don't let it out there into our system, you don't tell our kids about it, education's where it's at. Education. You know, that's like math, like our books or anything else in school. If you took math books out of schools, if you didn't teach math in school, how would our kids know what numbers are? How would they be able to solve a problem? They can't. That's the same way as diabetes. If you don't educate our kids, if you don't put it into the curriculum, into our schools, if you don't say, hey, this is what diabetes does, you know, see what this is doing. See these kids that is got blind. See these kids that is overweight and stuff. See how the diabetes is killing them. If you don't show kids that, they don't know. They don't know. Education. You've got to educate them with it. Shoving it behind, hiding it, don't help.
Now, one of the things that's of concern is a lot of parents don't know.
No.
A lot of parents don't know how to fix healthy meals anymore.
They don't.
You know, probably when I was growing up, you know.
You just not wanting to say I'm old.
But when I was growing up, drinking pop or soda didn't happen very often.
Oh no.
And now children start at toddlers.
They've got it in their bottles or their little sippy cups. They've already got their pop and other stuff that's not as good for them as what the milk and the water and stuff used to be. And like you say, education's it. You know, not only the kids, but at home. I guess diabetes is like, like we say about drugs or anything else. You know, it starts at home. You got to start them. You got to educate the parents. I mean, that's like me with drugs. When I'm talking to parents or I'm talking to somebody about drugs, how in school, when school's open, got the school year, how long is kids with teachers? How long are they in school? 7, 8 hours a day. How long they at home? 2, they come in, they get up in the morning, they go to school for, like I said, 7, 8 hours. Then they go home, they sit down in front of the TV, they run in and eat. 3 hours later, they're in bed. 3 hours. That's why you got to get it in these schools. You got to educate these people in the schools for kids. As I tell them, you know, by the time a kid comes to me about drugs, by the time a teacher, by the time a parent comes to me and says, hey, we got a problem. Yeah, you got a problem. You got a problem because you've done and let it go too long. You know, that's the same way as a hospital with a kid with diabetes. When that doctor looks at the kid with diabetes and he says, you know, your eyesight, you ain't going to have this now. It's too late. You should have started here at the school. And as you said, teachers, they should be watching your lunch lines. You should have a meal in progress. You should be able to sit down to a meal that's nutritious, that's got the proteins and stuff that you need, that's going to help you. And a lot of these kids, like we was talking about food, a lot of these kids, the only food they get that's any nourishment at all is what they get home, or what they get at school, I mean. Because once they get home, they may not have the food that they need.
I don't know what your experience was, but growing up, most families actually sat down for meals together. Do you think that happens?
Not nowadays. No. Too fast paced. Both parents is working to make ends meet if they've got jobs. A lot of times around here now, we're on a fixed income, and what money they got, you know, goes to pay bills and stuff. And if you're lucky, you may get a sandwich or something like that. A lot of times, kids, when there is no school, may not even get a meal. You know, it's not good. It's not good.
So how do we solve the problem? What kinds of suggestions would you have?
Education. As I'm saying right now, dude, you've got to educate people. Like I said, it's like homework or math, science. I mean, when you go to school, like I said, what is it? Writing, reading, and arithmetic. Well, what if we'd have hid that? What if we would have not, like I told you, what if we'd have said, well, I ain't going to show you how to do math. I'm going to take this book and not let you see this. Could you have been able to solve a problem? Could you have been able to add or subtract or anything like that? No, you can't. Because you was never taught. Now, if you educate, to me, you educate, and as you said, you educate your parents along with your kids, because your kids, a lot of it does start at home. Start at home. That's like your morals. You know, when I go talk to schools about drugs, one of the things that I hear, and this is a good example, I guess, for diabetes or anything else, but one of the examples I use a lot of times, and I know you hear this a lot, these kids is our future. These kids is our future. To me, I take it one step forward. We are them kids' future. If we do not show them the morals, if we, just like we was talking about diabetes, if you do not show that kid what diabetes can do, what is our future? What is exactly what we've got right now is what our future is. Overweight, heart problems, diabetes, and it all comes back to you. Overweight, nothing in school, no way that these kids even know. You could probably go to some of these schools right now, and if you walked in that school and you said, what's diabetes? Have you ever heard of diabetes? I'm talking kids probably even in the 6th grade. But you look at one of them and say, what's diabetes? They look at you and say, don't know. Can't tell you. Because it's been swept under the rug, put around the corner. Parents don't know about it. Like you said, we wasn't raised in them kind of times. As I told you, to me, When somebody told me diabetes, I thought, well, I can't eat that piece of cake, you know. Didn't know that I shouldn't be out here running around trying to do exercise when my diabetes was over 400. To me, that was, well, that's all I've always heard is, if it's how I walk. Well, I was doing that, killing myself, you know.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
You just don't do it.
Let me ask you, you know, I really agree that education is a key piece, but one of the things that I see is that people hear the information. It's on the news, it's, you know, it's in front of them, so it's not like they're not hearing that these things need to be changed. But how do you get people to go the next step? After they've heard what they should do, how do you actually get them to begin to do it?
That's a hard question.
I mean, I'm sure you face.
I don't want to say the same way as I do with drugs and stuff. I don't want to say you march the people in to the hospital and go to the morgue and say, okay, here's one 16-year-old kid that's blue and dead for diabetes. This is what's going to happen to him. This is what it's coming to. You know, you don't want to force feed them that way. Like I said, that's a very hard question. I don't know where the next step would be other than parents. Like I said, you just got to get parents to understand, as I said, we are our kids' future. If we don't get something done, and as you said, if you don't take that first step, and you know, what are we leaving ourselves up to?
A lot of times, you know, parents talk about what their kids are eating, but we buy it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
oh, yeah.
We're often the ones who do the shopping.
I've said the same thing. Them I call them drag britches. They're them ones that they hang off their waist and everything else. You know, and you say, God Almighty, why don't you come out? Parents bought, like you say, parents went out and bought them for them. You know, you don't need that. Again, I'm like you. It's got to start at home. It's got to start with parents. It's got to start and really realize, you know, hey, this is serious. This is what it comes to. That's like parents come to me a whole lot, and they'll say, Sheriff, I want you to scare my kid. I want you to scare them. I told them I don't scare kids. I tell them the truth. I don't hold back punches. When I go to these schools and I talk to a kid on about drugs, stuff like that, you know, I tell them it's out there. I mean, it's like I talked to a kid one day there, you know, and I asked the kid, I said, are you afraid of werewolves? No, Lord, no. I said, afraid of vampires? No, Lord, no. You know, I said, are you afraid a child molester's going to put you in the car? I said, well, you shouldn't. Them's real. It's just like diabetes. It's real. It's there. It takes lives. It takes your eyesight. It takes limbs off of it. They may start cutting on your toes, and then end up from up your leg, and in a wheelchair. You can't walk. You can't play with your friends. And you know, you see these commercials of kids sitting there in a wheelchair, watching their kids' friends play ball, wishing, boy, I wished I could get up and run them bases and stuff. What are you going to do when your eyesight goes too? They can push you out there in that wheelchair, but you ain't going to get to see your kids. You ain't going to get to see your friends running bases. You're going to get your hearing, so you're going to get to see them. That's what I said. That's what diabetes does. It whittles you down, cuts you down to nothing. And the more that you see that, the more that parents realize what can happen to their kids. Because parents has always said, boy, I love my kid, I'm going to protect him. I mean, if it was, like I was talking about, some pervert out there trying to hurt your kid, parents would be up in arms. They'd be waving them signs. They'd be, hey, we gotta fry him, What about this sickness? What about diabetes? How do you want to protect them on that? You need to be that sign waver like you was talking about. Let them know about it. Let them know about it. Because diabetes will take your life as well as that perverted fellow sitting there with a bag of candy saying, hey, little kid, come here. Saying there's diabetes. It's just waiting on you. And it'll get you.
So I keep wanting to come back to this. So how do we get the community all sort of moving in the same direction? Because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take, it's going to take some big movement of the community to begin to see that it's for their own health, for their own good, that they need to make some really lifestyle changes.
Well, to me, you would probably do it the same way as you do everything else. You got to take that first step. You've got to get the people involved. You've got to get the influential people. You've got to get the pillars of the community. You've got to get them saying, hey, this is what we need to do. And you work on them. You work on you people it's like I said, that's a pillar over here that other people look at and say, well, they're doing it. We might all do that. I think that's your first step. If you get them type of people on your side, you get them pushing the same thing that you're pushing, then I think the community then will come as a whole. Because like I said, they look at the ones that's helped them before, that's helped with communities before, that's the ones that you're going to follow. Now, you get somebody that's just somebody, no. You get one crying in the dark, it won't matter. You get, like I said, you get the people that matters on your side, you get them pushing your product, and yeah, you're going to get it. Because other people going to say, well, yeah, Susie bought that, I need to get that too. I mean, I'm just being honest.
Well, you're exactly right,
And you get it in schools, just like here in Grundy High School, it's our biggest school. You get them working on your lunches. You get them setting up a president of this is what we're going to have here. And then Riverview picks it up. Then Hurley picks it up. Then J.M. Bevins picks it up. Then Whitewood picks it up. Then Twin Valley picks it up. Next thing you know, you got all these schools going. But if you go over here at one of the other schools and they say, yeah, we'll try it. Well, the other schools, it's your bigger schools, it's not going to listen to the little school.
You're exactly right. One of the things that people have been telling me is that churches might have an important role. I wonder if you had any
Big
thoughts
Bible Belt. Big Bible. You get your churches involved. Southwest Virginia is a big Bible Belt. You get your preachers are preaching about it. You get them talking about it. Yeah. I mean, that's like our March 13th. I doubt if you know anything about it, but we had a bad shootout. I had deputies killed, wounded. The community pulled together. The community done it, and it started with churches. One church said, Sheriff, I would like for your men to come by. We want to fix dinner. Next thing you know, another church. It was just about every Sunday we had a church that was trying to fix us dinner and show us our appreciation. It spread. I mean, out big. And the whole community pulled together, and we made it through what was a very, very hard time. But now Southwest Virginia, especially Buchanan County here, is a Bible Belt. You get your churches involved, you get your preachers involved. It'll come out.
Well, that's what I'm hoping.
People will come aboard.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the best ways that we might have to really get information out to families and people who live in all parts of the county.
Right. Oh, you like I said, church organizations, that's a very, very good way to get this stuff started. Get it spread, get it going. I guess it's like a fire or anything else. You just catch a corner and keep fanning it, and it's going to start blazing. You know? And that's where you do it.
Yeah.
That's where you got to get it out there.
Yeah.
But spreading it is the way you got to do it.
Well, I think I've asked you most of the things I need
Yeah, and
to.
I probably talked too much.
No. You've been terrific. Is there anything else that you'd like to, kind of end on?
No, just like I said, I would love, which I know, I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen, is it's like drugs or anything else. Diabetes is here, and we can fight it. I don't think it'll ever be 100% gone. It's going to be here. And I think you, people like Pam, diabetes organizations and stuff, I really think that them's the places that's got to get the people educated and understand that this is what we need, this is what we got to do. That's what we do.